It was a freezing winter night in Warsaw. Snow blanketed the empty streets. The wind howled through the broken shelter of a lonely bus stop. A young woman sat motionless in an old wheelchair. Her eyes followed every bus that came and went, but none of them stopped for her. Passersby hurried past, avoiding her gaze. A group of teenagers laughed and mocked her as they walked by. When the clock struck midnight, a man in a worn coat appeared, holding his little daughter's hand. He stopped. He knelt down beside her, took her trembling hand in his and whispered, "Come with us. From now on, you'll never have to wait alone again." His name was Marek. He was 37 years old, a construction worker with calloused hands and tired eyes. He had lost his wife 3 years ago in a terrible accident. Since then, he had been raising his daughter Zofia alone in a modest apartment on the outskirts of the city. Every day was a struggle, but he kept going for her. Around his neck, he wore a small wooden pendant carved with his wife's initials. It was the only piece of her he had left. The woman in the wheelchair was named Anya. She was 30 years old, though she looked older from the weight of her suffering. 2 years ago, she had been in a bus accident that left her paralyzed from the waist down. Her family, unable to cope with the burden, had slowly disappeared from her life. Her mother stopped calling. Her brother moved abroad without saying goodbye. Now she survived on a small disability pension, spending her nights at bus stops because she had nowhere else to go. In her lap, she clutched a small diary filled with shaky handwriting and tear-stained pages. That night, Marek was walking home from a late shift. His daughter Zofia, 8 years old with bright, curious eyes, held his hand tightly. The streets were empty and cold. When they passed the bus stop, Marek saw Anya sitting there, shivering in the bitter wind. Her lips were blue. Her fingers were trembling. For a moment, he almost walked past her. He had his own problems, his own pain. But then Zofia tugged on his hand. She looked up at him with those innocent eyes and said, "Daddy, she needs us." Marek stopped. He looked at the woman again. Something in her eyes reminded him of himself after his wife died. That same emptiness, that same desperate loneliness. He took a deep breath, then walked over to her. He knelt down in the snow beside her wheelchair. Gently, he placed his warm hand over her frozen one. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. Anya flinched at his touch. She wasn't used to kindness anymore. She shook her head, unable to speak. Tears filled her eyes. "Come with us," Marek said. "It's too cold out here. You can stay at our place tonight." Anya immediately shook her head. Shame burned in her chest. She didn't want to be a burden. She didn't want pity. But Zofia stepped forward and took Anya's other hand. The little girl's eyes were so pure, so full of unwavering trust, that Anya felt something break inside her. Slowly, she nodded yes. Marek pushed her wheelchair through the snowy streets. Zofia walked beside them, chattering happily about her school and her drawings. Anya said nothing, but for the first time in months, she felt something other than despair. When they reached the small apartment, Marek carefully helped her inside. The space was cramped and humble, but it was warm. It smelled like soup and safety. Anya looked around with wide eyes, overwhelmed by the simple kindness of strangers. As Marek made tea and Zofia brought her a blanket, Anya thought to herself, "I thought I was just another invisible person waiting to disappear. But tonight, someone saw me. Tonight, someone chose not to walk away." And for the first time in a very long time, she allowed herself to hope. Years later, Marek would say, "I thought I was only taking a stranger home that night. I didn't know I was carrying hope back with me. Sometimes the people we save end up saving us instead." The first morning, Anya woke up on the small couch in the living room. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she heard the sounds of breakfast being made in the kitchen, the smell of fresh bread, the gentle clinking of plates. She heard Zofia's laughter, bright and pure like morning sunlight. Anya's chest tightened. How long had it been since she'd woken up to the sounds of a family? When Marek came into the room, he smiled at her. "Good morning," he said simply, as if it was the most natural thing in the world to have her there. Anya tried to smile back, but shame washed over her. "I should go," she whispered. You've done enough for me already, but Marek shook his head. Stay, he said, at least until you have somewhere safe to go. Anya wanted to protest, but Zofia ran in with a plate of toast, and her eyes were so full of innocent joy that Anya couldn't say no. In those first days, Anya felt awkward and out of place. She apologized constantly. Sorry for taking up space. Sorry for being slow. Sorry for existing. But Marek was patient. He moved furniture to make room for her wheelchair. He carried her to the bathroom when she needed help, treating her with such gentle dignity that she wanted to cry. He never made her feel like a burden. He never sighed with frustration or showed impatience. He simply made space for her, the way you make space for someone who belongs. Slowly, something began to shift. Small moments of tenderness started to appear, like flowers pushing through concrete. One afternoon, Zofia brought over a box of puzzles and sat beside Anya's wheelchair. Can you teach me? The little girl asked. Anya hesitated. She hadn't done a puzzle in years. Her hands shook as she picked up the first piece. But Zofia was patient, guiding her gently, and soon they were working together. When they finished the puzzle, Zofia clapped her hands and laughed with pure delight. Anya laughed too, and realized with shock that she hadn't laughed in months. From across the room, Marek watched them quietly and felt something in his own heart begin to lighten. At night, after Zofia went to bed, Marek and Anya would sit together in the small living room. At first, they sat in silence, but slowly, they began to talk. Anya told him about the accident, how the bus had crashed, how she'd woken up in the hospital unable to feel her legs, how her family had visited less and less until they stopped coming at all, how she'd ended up alone, invisible, forgotten by the world. Her voice shook as she spoke, but Marek listened without judgment, without pity. He just listened. Then one night, Marek shared his own story. He told her about his wife, about the car accident that took her away, about the crushing grief that had nearly destroyed him, about the nights when he'd wanted to give up, but couldn't because Zofia needed him. She's the only reason I'm still here, he said softly, looking at his daughter's closed bedroom door. After my wife died, I thought I'd never feel whole again, but Zofia kept me alive. Anya reached out and touched his hand. They sat there in the quiet darkness, two broken people who understood each other's pain. Marek started doing small things for Anya. One weekend, he spent hours building a wooden ramp so she could reach the balcony by herself. When he finished, he wheeled her outside. The fresh air hit her face, and she closed her eyes, feeling the sun for the first time in weeks. Thank you, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Marek just nodded, looking pleased. Anya, in turn, found small ways to help. She noticed that Marek's work jacket had a torn pocket, so she carefully sewed it back together with shaky hands. When he came home and saw it, he was speechless. You didn't have to do that, he said. I wanted to, Anya replied. It was the first time she'd felt useful in years. One evening, the three of them sat down to eat soup together at the small kitchen table. It was a simple meal, nothing special. But as they ate, Anya felt something overwhelming rise in her chest. This was what family felt like, this warmth, this belonging, this simple act of eating together, of being seen and valued. She started crying, unable to stop the tears. Zofia looked worried, but Marek understood. He reached over and squeezed her hand. It's okay, he said gently. You're home now. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Anya sat alone in the living room. She pulled out her small diary, the one she'd carried with her through all her darkest days. With shaking hands, she wrote, Tonight, I was called by my name at dinner, not the disabled woman or that poor thing. Just Anya, just me. Tonight, I was part of a family again. She closed the diary and placed it carefully on the shelf beside Marek's books. For the first time, it felt like she had a place to keep her things, a place to belong. In the darkness of her bedroom, Zofia lay awake, thinking. She'd been watching Anya and her father together. She'd seen the way her father smiled more now, the way Anya's eyes had started to shine again, the way their little apartment felt fuller, warmer, more alive. She thought about her mother, who she barely remembered now, and wondered if her mother would be happy that someone new had come into their lives, someone who needed them, someone who made them feel less alone. In the quiet darkness, Zofia whispered to herself, "Daddy, can I call her Mama Anya?" She didn't say it out loud yet, but the thought was there, growing like a seed in her heart, waiting for the right moment to bloom. But peace never lasts forever. The world has a way of testing the things that matter most. It started with Marek's relatives. His aunt came to visit one Sunday afternoon, took one look at Anya in the wheelchair, and pulled Marek aside. "What are you thinking?" she hissed in a low voice. "You're a single father raising a child. That's hard enough. Why would you bring home a burden like her?" Marek's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. His aunt continued, "She can't work. She can't help around the house. She's just going to drain your time and money. Think about Zofia. Think about yourself." The neighbors started talking too. Whispers in the hallway. Glances when Marek pushed Anya's wheelchair to the store. "Poor man," they said. "He's too kind for his own good." Others were crueler. "That woman is just using him. She found someone desperate and alone, and now she's taking advantage." The gossip spread like poison through the building. Some people stopped greeting Marek. Others gave Anya cold stares when they passed her in the corridor. Anya heard everything. She wasn't deaf. She saw the looks. She heard the whispers. And slowly the old shame came creeping back. Late at night, when everyone was asleep, she would lie awake and think, "They're right. I am a burden. I'm ruining their lives. Marek and Zofia deserve better than me." The thoughts grew darker and heavier until she could barely breathe. One night, Anya opened her diary and wrote with trembling hands, "I should leave. I should disappear before I cause them more pain. They've already suffered so much. They don't need someone broken like me dragging them down. Tomorrow, I'll tell Marek I'm leaving. It's the right thing to do. It's the only thing to do." She closed the diary and placed it on the shelf, her heart breaking into pieces. The next morning, Marek found the diary while cleaning. He didn't mean to invade her privacy, but when he saw his name on the open page, he couldn't help but read. His chest tightened as he read her words. The despair, the guilt, the plan to leave. He closed the diary carefully and sat down, his head in his hands. How could she think she was a burden? How could she not see what she'd given them? Hope, light, a reason to feel whole again. That same week, the crisis came. Anya had been pushing herself too hard, refusing to rest, trying to prove she wasn't useless. One evening she collapsed. Her body simply gave out from exhaustion and stress. Marek found her on the floor, unconscious, her wheelchair tipped over beside her. Terror shot through him like lightning. "Anya!" he shouted, dropping to his knees beside her. "Anya, please wake up!" Zofia started crying. Marek called an ambulance, his hands shaking so badly he could barely hold the phone. At the hospital, the doctors said she would be fine. She just needed rest and proper care. But as Marek sat beside her hospital bed, watching her pale face, he felt something break inside him. He took her hand gently and whispered, "Don't leave us. Please don't leave us. We've already lost so much. Don't take yourself away from us too." Anya's eyes fluttered open. She looked at him, confused, and saw tears streaming down his face. Strong, steady Marek was crying for her. A few days later, Marek's family gathered for a dinner. His aunt, his uncle, his cousins. They'd heard about Anya's collapse and came to talk sense into him. They sat around the table, their faces stern and disapproving. "This has gone too far," his aunt said. "You need to put her in a care facility. Let professionals handle her." His uncle nodded. "You're a good man, Marek, but you can't save everyone. You have your own life to live." Then his cousin spoke up, her voice dripping with contempt. "Let's be honest. She can't even walk. How is she supposed to be a mother to Zofia? What kind of example is she setting? A woman who can't take care of herself, can't contribute, can't do anything? She's dead weight." The table went silent. Marek's hands clenched into fists. His whole body was shaking with anger. Slowly, Marek stood up. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute conviction. She's already a mother, he said. She gave my daughter back her smile. She gave her laughter. She gave her hope. Before Anya came, Zofia was quiet and sad. She missed her mother so much it was killing her inside. But now she comes home from school excited to show Anya her drawings. Now she laughs again. Now she has someone who listens to her, who sees her, who loves her. His voice cracked with emotion. Anya didn't take anything from us. She gave us everything. His aunt tried to interrupt, but Marek held up his hand. And me? I was barely alive before she came. I was just going through the motions, surviving but not living. Anya reminded me what it feels like to care for someone again, to have purpose, to have family. He looked around the table at each of them. So no, I won't put her in a facility. I won't push her away. She stays. And if you can't accept that, then you don't have to come back. That night, Marek returned to the hospital. Anya was awake, staring out the window. He sat down beside her bed and took her hand. I read your diary, he said softly. I'm sorry, but I needed to know. Anya's eyes filled with tears. I am a burden, she whispered. Everyone says so. Marek shook his head. He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. If the world turns away from you, he said, his voice thick with emotion, then we'll be the world for each other. You, me, and Zofia. That's all we need. Anya started crying, deep sobs that shook her whole body. Marek held her hand tightly, anchoring her, refusing to let go. You're not a burden, he said. You're family, and family doesn't give up on each other. In that moment, something shifted. The fear began to dissolve. The shame began to fade. And for the first time, Anya allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved to stay. If you believe one touch can change a destiny, drop a below. Don't forget to follow LT Stories for more touching moments that restore faith in humanity. Spring came slowly to Warsaw that year. The snow melted. The gray skies turned blue. And inside the small apartment, something new was growing. Anya came home from the hospital a week later, and this time, she didn't apologize for existing. She didn't try to make herself smaller. She let Marek help her without shame. She let Zofia hug her without pulling away. She was learning slowly that being loved didn't mean being perfect. One afternoon, a social worker came to visit. She told Anya about a free art therapy group for people with disabilities. It's every Tuesday, the woman explained. Just painting, drawing, nothing formal, a place to express yourself. Anya hesitated. She hadn't touched art supplies in years, but Marek encouraged her. Go, he said gently. It might be good for you. So Anya went. The first session was terrifying. She sat in her wheelchair, surrounded by strangers, all of them carrying their own invisible wounds. The instructor, a kind woman with silver hair, handed out brushes and canvases. Paint whatever you feel, she said. There's no right or wrong here. Anya stared at the blank canvas for a long time. Then, with shaking hands, she dipped her brush into the paint. She didn't know what she was painting at first. But as the colors spread across the canvas, an image emerged. Two hands, clasped tightly together. One hand reaching down, the other reaching up. Meeting in the middle. Holding on. When she showed it to Marek that evening, he stood in silence for a long moment. It's beautiful, he finally said, his voice thick with emotion. It's us, isn't it? Anya nodded. It's all of us, everyone who refuses to let go. Marek hung the painting on the wall above the kitchen table, where they could see it every day. A reminder that connection was stronger than loneliness. As the weeks passed, Anya continued going to her art group. She made friends there, other people who understood what it felt like to be broken and slowly piecing yourself back together. She painted more. She talked more. She laughed more. The heaviness that had lived in her chest for so long began to lift, piece by piece, like clouds parting to reveal the sun. At home, the family grew closer. One day, Zofia came home from school, bursting with excitement. Mama Anya, she called out, then stopped, her hand flying to her mouth. She hadn't meant to say it out loud. The nickname had slipped out. Anya froze. Her heart pounded. Slowly, she looked at the little girl. "What did you call me?" she asked softly. Zofia's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to. I know you're not really my mama." Anya felt her own tears spilling over. She reached out and pulled Zofia into her arms, holding her tight. "Say it again," she whispered. "Please, say it again." Zofia buried her face in Anya's shoulder. "Mama Anya," she said, her voice muffled but clear. Anya wept, overwhelmed by a love so pure it hurt. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I'm here. I'm your Mama Anya." When Marek came home that evening and heard what had happened, he had to turn away to hide his own tears. One weekend, Marek had an idea. "Let's plant something," he said. He brought home a box of tulip bulbs and several pots. Together, the three of them worked on the balcony, filling the pots with soil, carefully placing each bulb, covering them with earth. Zofia's hands got dirty and she laughed. Anya's hands shook, but she kept going. Marek guided them both, patient and steady. "Why tulips?" Anya asked as they finished. Marek smiled. "Tulips mean rebirth," he said. "New beginnings. I thought it was fitting." Anya looked at the pots, at the dark soil hiding the bulbs beneath. "We won't see them bloom for a while," she said. "No," Marek agreed, "but we'll wait together, and when they come up, we'll know we made something beautiful." Anya reached for his hand. "Like us," she said softly, "like our family." Marek squeezed her hand. "Like us." That night, after Zofia had gone to bed, Marek sat beside Anya on the balcony. The air was cool but not cold. Stars dotted the sky above them. Marek reached into his pocket and pulled out the wooden pendant he always wore, the one carved with his wife's initials. He held it in his palm for a moment, looking at it. Then slowly he placed it in Anya's hand. "My wife wanted me to live on," he said quietly. "Before she died, she made me promise I wouldn't give up, that I'd keep going, keep loving, keep living. For a long time, I didn't know what that meant. I thought it just meant surviving, but now I understand." He looked at Anya, his eyes shining. "Maybe it means this. Maybe it means making space for new love. Not replacing what was lost, but allowing something new to grow." Anya closed her fingers around the pendant, feeling its weight, its warmth. "Are you sure?" she whispered. Marek nodded. "I'm sure." They sat together in comfortable silence, their hands touching, the city lights glowing soft in the distance. Above them, fireworks suddenly burst across the sky, some celebration in the city center. Anya leaned her head against Marek's shoulder and he wrapped his arm around her. They watched the colors bloom and fade, like hope itself. If you believe broken hearts can still bloom, press like and follow LT Stories for more heartwarming tales. Share this with someone who needs hope today. Months passed, and the tulips began to push through the soil. First, small green shoots, then stems reaching toward the sun, and finally, buds that would soon burst into color. Anya watched them every morning from her wheelchair on the balcony, amazed that something so beautiful could come from darkness and patience. One evening, she sat alone in the living room with her diary. It was the same small book she'd carried through her darkest days, filled with tear-stained pages and desperate words. But tonight she turned to the last empty page. She picked up her pen and with steady hands she wrote, "I am no longer abandoned. I have been chosen, not out of pity, not out of obligation, but out of love. I have a home. I have a family. I have a place where I belong." She closed the diary and looked around the apartment, at the painting of two hands hanging above the kitchen table, at Zofia's drawings covering the refrigerator, at the wooden pendant sitting on the shelf beside a photo of Marek's late wife. This was home now, not the place she was born, but the place where someone had held her hand and refused to let go. Marek came home from work that evening, tired but smiling. Zofia ran to hug him, chattering about her day at school. Anya watched them, her heart full. When Marek looked over at her, she gestured for him to come sit beside her. He did, settling onto the couch with a tired sigh. Zofia climbed onto his lap, and Anya wheeled her chair closer. "Marek," Anya said softly, her voice steady, "I need to tell you something." He looked at her, concerned. "What is it?" Anya took a deep breath. "When I first came here, I thought it was temporary. I thought I'd stay a few days and then leave. I didn't think I deserved to be here. I didn't think I belonged anywhere." Her voice wavered slightly, but she continued. "But now I know the truth. This isn't just a place I'm staying. This is my home. You and Zofia aren't just people who helped me. You're my family." Tears filled her eyes, but she smiled through them. "So if you and Zofia still need me, if you still want me here, then I want to stay. Not as a guest, not as someone you're taking care of, but as family, as someone who belongs." Zofia's eyes went wide. She looked up at her father. "Daddy, does that mean Mama Anya is staying forever?" Marek's own eyes were wet with tears. He reached out and took Anya's hand. "You were never a guest," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "From the moment we brought you home, you were family. Welcome home, Anya. Welcome home." Anya broke down crying, and Zofia scrambled off Marek's lap to throw her arms around Anya's neck. The three of them held each other, a small family forged not by blood but by choice, by kindness, by refusing to let go when the world said to walk away. Spring came fully to Warsaw. The tulips on the balcony burst into bloom, bright red petals opening to the sun. On a warm morning, Zofia ran around the small apartment laughing, chasing a butterfly that had flown in through the open window. Marek and Anya sat side by side on the balcony, their hands clasped together, watching her play. Above the kitchen table, Anya's painting of two hands holding each other caught the morning light. Anya looked at Marek and smiled. "Thank you," she said simply, "for stopping that night, for not walking away." Marek squeezed her hand. "Thank you for staying, for giving us a reason to be whole again." They sat in comfortable silence, the sounds of Zofia's laughter filling the air, the tulips swaying gently in the breeze, the sun warm on their faces. Family isn't where you are born. It's where someone holds your hand and never lets go. It's where you're chosen, not once, but every single day. It's where broken pieces come together and make something more beautiful than they ever were apart. If you believe every abandoned heart deserves a home, follow LT Stories for more healing stories that touch the soul. Like and share if this moved you.